All right. We should be live now. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just got
believe
it this
anything he
time.
says.
No, I did get it now.
I don't think I ever subscribed to your channel. So
That's awful. Why would you never subscribe?
Dude. Well, I mean, it makes sense not to ruin it right now because we are exactly at 69. So.
oh, yeah, I'm not gonna subscribe. I can't ruin that. I need that.
Nobody ever will again.
Yeah. I mean, that might be better than having your own custom URL, I think. Stopping right at 69.
So basically, once somebody randomly subscribes and bumps it up to 70, then we're like, okay, now we got to go all the way.
There. You guys should be able to hear me a little bit better now. I turned that music down.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Jack, I don't see the little green dot next to your name in Sleeper indicating that you're online. Are you online in Sleeper, Jack?
I am not. Now I am.
Jack! Oh my god, unbelievable. Are you using
nerve
Sleeper
of
on your
some people.
phone?
Yeah.
You use Sleeper on your computer now. You're doing your audio through your phone, and that's your most important thing.
Well, yeah, but my phone can probably handle more than my Chromebook can.
You know what?
so-
You know what? You got me. You got me.
I don't want to put double the amount of things on my Chromebook and have it crash and explode.
I feel that.
That's sad. What did I even get a Chromebook for? I should have just gotten a second phone and just set the phone up on my desk.
There you go.
Next week, Jack, we'll see what we can do about using your phone as your camera, and then you can use your
Walters is coming in super choppy for me. I don't know if it's just from the music or what.
I want to believe it's just because of the music.
Are you hearing that too for him?
Yeah, we're
Okay,
both hearing
that's not
identical
just me
things.
then. Well, I never know if it's just my terrible.
That's fair.
That's why I check.
I'll be honest. I'm surprised Wisconsin has internet. So
They just got it, 2020. Kind of a big deal. So what is our, what do we got our ETA here? Anything?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna run through this song here one time, maybe twice. We'll see. And
Okay.
I've
Why?
I'm also trying to get. I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get our theme song onto my computer. I had it, and I don't know
Okay.
where it went, so I'm emailing it to myself off my phone. It's kind of backwards.
Got it.
You want to send out a few links? How about that? You want to do that? You want to send out a couple links?
Sure.
A couple linkers?
I can send those.
Any linkers in the chat? Actually, I wonder if that's... Oh, that's a good little tune.
Someone wake me up when this podcast actually starts, dude.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm like, we're well over half an hour past at this point.
What are we even talking about tonight? We're talking about our thoughts on the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
The next NBA Finals might be over before we start. I don't know.
Anyone else see India and their great cricket win over England in the yard? Pretty big deal.
Can't say I can.
What? Show a little respect for cricket, pal.
Aren't those little bugs out in the yard that make noise?
Who invited you here, Jack? Why are you here?
I don't even know. I asked myself that question.
Yeah, ask again.
See, I go on YouTube, Gar, and it says on the screen starting soon, but I don't know if I believe the screen.
That's tough, dude. That's tough.
He's wasting my one and only hour per month of good internet. It's going to go away at 8 o'clock like a pumpkin.
What? Is that a pumpkin search?
It's like at midnight when the thing turned into the pumpkin at Cinderella.
Oh, I see. So there's a witch involved.
Could be.
Or was it a witch technically, or was it like the fairy godmother? I forget.
Fairy godmother, yeah.
Okay.
Over here in Wisconsin. It didn't roll off the tongue like I thought it would.
Okay. I see that we have a whole 2 viewers right now. I'm assuming
Alright, so I
that's
hear the theme song.
I'm assuming that's Jack and Gar.
What?
I'm not viewing your stream. I don't give a rip about your stream, dude.
Oh, okay.
That might have been too harsh. Nah, fuck your stream. I stand by it.
I like it. Jack, where are the notes? How come they're not in season 5?
In Google Docs, I got them pulled up.
I can't see them.
Well, I got them pulled up. There's not really anything you need. It was pretty.
This whole thing's improv. If you're reading notes, you're a loser.
Yeah, I can just do them if needed, but it's literally just like the rules for the draft and then a few check-in points after a couple of rounds.
Perfect.
So I'll just handle it.
Oh, you're gonna handle it. Something is not liking something, that's for sure.
1 hour later.
Oh, yeah. All right. And we are recording. Everybody, we are live here. And you know what? I should probably should do this over here as well. Oh, hey, cool. Check it out. Welcome, everybody. We are live here. We are the Victorious POD. We are here. Episode number 2. Is that right, Jack? Number 2?
Correct.
On the season? Jeez. Wow.
Number 2, my lord.
It's a steaming pile of number 2.
Talk yet. Welcome, everybody. Welcome on in. We here are the Victorious POD. We are going to be talking all things fantasy football today. We have our first annual mock is going to explain to us definitely here in 1 second. A few things I'd like to run through here real quick. Number one, I would like to thank Levi Oki. He created this beautiful artwork here that you see in front of us. Shout out to him. He has been awesome. We got a few more things from him today that I have somewhat implemented, but big thanks to him. If you would like to see more, find Levi Oki illustration on. So go there, do that. And I'd like to say, join the Discord. Please join the Discord. We have it here linked in our YouTube channel. You can see it in the episode description below. It'll also be in the podcast description as well. You can find us here on YouTube. You can find us on all of the major platforms for podcasts, www.anchor.fm. You can find us on all social media websites as well. I'm going to go back to our website here real quick, www.anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod. So let's do that. There you will find our episode, and please like and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, iTunes, app, whatever. You know the vibes. All right, Jack, how are you doing, man?
Good. Soliloquy monologue that you just had, that was wonderful.
It was off the top of my head because I can't see the notes that you were supposed to put in the Google Drive for me to be able to view.
I'm looking at them. Hey, don't come at the note writer here.
All right.
I'll pull a Ron Burgundy and change some of the prompts on you.
All right. Well, why don't you just introduce Garlic, and then you know what? Here, we'll just do this here real quick. Who?
You just did it for me.
Okay, well, why don't you introduce him, and why don't we go through kind of the rules of the mock draft?
Yes. Well, Garlic, it's your time to shine. We are welcoming a non-member of the Victorious POD, but a member of his own podcast in his own right, who's going to help us with the mock draft today. I'll let him tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll kind of get into the breakdown of the mock draft rules. If you want to take it away.
I mean, my name's Garlic. How we doing, folks? I'm going to talk. I've been slowly sitting here eating. I got on this call at 6:30, and this was supposed to happen a lot sooner, but I've been slowly whittling away at this beautiful cheesecake brought to you by Carrie's Cheesecakery. It's a cookies and cream. I don't think you'll be able to see it on the can, but the very bottom there, it's like an Oreo crust. They've got. So look up Carrie's Cheesecakery on Facebook and go buy a cheesecake from her. It's incredible. That's all I have to say.
I am glad to hear you said it was a cookies and cream one, because I was wondering if that was a little bit of mold. I wasn't sure on the video, so otherwise, now that I know,
delicious Oreo.
Lovely. So we're gonna have the three of us drafting tonight, each from a different position, to kind of have us spread out so that you can kind of, as the viewers, see what different teams can look like and what your strategies can be coming into a draft depending on where you pick. This will be a 12-team draft because those are the best, and 8 and 10-team drafts are silly because you just think your team is better than it is when everybody's teams are amazing. We're going to have roughly 30 seconds per user to pick. Everybody else is going to be computers, and we'll kind of give you our thoughts and breakdowns as we go. We're going to go, I believe, just 14 rounds. So it's going to be about 5 bench spots or so. Standard league, so no PPR fanciness. We can always talk about that and how that will affect things a little bit later. But regular 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, tight end, defense, and kicker. Not that those 2 matter, but we're going to be picking from the 1, the 6, and the 12 to really give you a lay of the land and kind of where some of the tiers break off here.
Right on. Thanks, Jack, for breaking that down. I don't think we really have anything else that we're going to need to start on, so we might as well get switched on over to our draft board over here, and we'll just bring that up. And then we can head right into it with our mock draft. Jack, do you want to get it started?
Yeah, I will hit the start button here and put myself on the clock. Promise you it's not going to take the full 60 seconds, but in my opinion, I don't know how you two feel, but I feel like the number one overall spot is a solid. You're going to get the number one, pretty much unquestioned player, Christian. We'll get into how this kind of breaks down. I know it's a long wait of 24 picks to come back to me, but I mean, you get a guy that basically is like two running backs in one, or the way his receptions totals go is like another receiver. He's better than a lot of receivers when it comes to receiving categories. So kind of a no-brainer here. It kind of starts to get a little bit murkier in the next couple of picks, but I will put CMC on the board at 1, and then we will see what the next couple of spots come out at as we go here. So Walters, if you want to start talking, I'm going to get it to the next few spots.
Okay. Yeah, so Christian McCaffrey was taken. Then we have Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley. All those running backs were taken. So now that leaves me with a few different running backs here. We have Alvin Kamara available. We also have Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott. I feel like at this point, there are too many good running backs on the board to be able to um, to not go with a running back. So I'm going to absolutely stick with the running back position here, and I am going to draft Alvin Kamara here, mostly because at this point I feel like Alvin Kamara is going to be really the only offense that New Orleans is going to be able to actually use. I believe they have one of the weakest wide receiving teams in the NFL right now, and so I think that going with Alvin Kamara would be a great spot here.
So a little bit unusual to see him drop to 6. I feel like more often than not, he's kind of hopping above the Chubb and Barkley players here. So I would expect him to be in the top 4. But regardless, you see the first 7 picks here after Walters took Kamara. We have Jonathan Taylor going next. The first 7 picks are all running backs. Devontae Adams came off next. Zeke, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, receiver run. I'm going to put it back on here and let Garlic chit chat about the bookends.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, sitting here at pick 12, I was praying, hoping, and pleading that Stephon Diggs would fall to me here. And I was just going to go Stephon Diggs and Aaron Jones and think it would be the greatest thing ever, because Stephon Diggs is easily going to be a top 5 receiver. I think Aaron Jones, easily a top 10 running back, probably top 5 if that offense stays as potent as it was last year. So now I don't know what to do. I'm definitely going to go Aaron Jones here, but I'm also stalling a little bit so I can use a lot of time for my next pick as well. But Aaron Jones will be my first pick. At this point, Travis Kelce not being off the board at 12, that does kind of surprise me. I think Kelce normally goes in the 8 to 10 range. I'm also thinking about just double tapping running backs here and going Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler, and then just there's plenty of depth at wide receiver, and the difference between the top wide receivers and the top running, or the parity between running backs and wide receivers is a lot. So it's pretty much between Kelce and Austin Eckler here. Maybe Antonio Gibson just as a little upset over Austin Eckler. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins or DK Metcalf or maybe Calvin Ridley's worth this pick. Oof. I think I'll go Antonio Gibson here, get 2 stud running backs right off the top, because we know stud running backs aren't going to fall to me at the 3-4 turn. So I'm happy with Aaron Jones and Antonio Gibson there. Really wanted Stephon Diggs, though, if I'm honest.
I was not expecting you to go Gibson over Eckler. I thought you kind of talked yourself into it because I am a huge Eckler fan, even in standard, but I get Gibson as well. Seeing Kelce fall to the second pick, the pick right after yours, so second pick of the second round. I'll list off the other people shortly, but just to kind of pick both of your guys' brains, I know, Garlic, you mentioned it's rare to have him even fall to the end of the first round. Where would you be comfortable taking him, or are you just kind of out on Kelce when there's those flex players available?
I would say I'm out on Kelce. I mean, obviously, I said Kelce is a consideration. I mean, like I said, I'd take Kelce as early as 8 in the first round. I don't know, just the way the board was falling to me and being at the bookend here, knowing until my next pick, I just wanted to double tap running backs. I think nothing against Kelce or the wide receivers available, I suppose.
Makes sense. So then rattling off here, after Garlic took Aaron Jones and Antonio Gibson, we had Travis Kelce finally go off the board. Hopkins. Mahomes, first quarterback, was pick 204, a little bit of a surprise. Then Calvin Ridley and DK Metcalf on the clock.
Right on. So, man. So at this point, like none of the wide receivers that I really, really wanted, except for one that I do see here that I will be going and grabbing here, is around. But you do see a lot of running backs still available. You have Joe Mixon. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You have, I guess, kind of down that list, you have DeAndre Swift on there as well, but I don't think I'd really be targeting him at this point. But another thing that I also see is you have the number 2 tight end, George Kittle, sitting there as well, and we know how much of a monster he has been. But I am not going to go there. I am going to be selecting Justin Jefferson, wide receiver for Minnesota here, because I think that Justin Jefferson is really going to come into his own this year. He had a breakout campaign last year. You have Adam Thielen, who is getting another year older, probably going to take a step back. And you just saw, I believe, if I remember right, I believe you just saw more targets going towards Justin Jefferson during the back half of last year. And I would almost have to imagine that this year is going to be the same. So the only concern I have about Justin Jefferson is that the defense for Minnesota is a lot better this year. So the number of points that Minnesota has to put on the board might not be as much, but I am very, very confident in taking Justin Jefferson as my first wide receiver in the second round.
Nice, lovely. So a 4-pick stretch of wide receivers here. After you picked Jefferson, we rounded it out with A.J. Brown. Then, as you mentioned, George Kittle just came off the board, so the second tight end is gone. Austin Eckler falls down to the 210, which is just insane to me. He's somebody that I would look at taking in the early second potentially if I had one of those picks. Keenan Allen, super underrated, but amazing every year. So I am on the clock next. I'm going to kind of do the method of garlic and use all 60 seconds both times. To me, the top guys on the board, at least according to Sleeper, which I think depending on where you're drafting, these might be a little different, but I'm looking at Mixon, Najee, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Technically, the top 5 people available are all running backs. Having McCaffrey off the bat with my first one, you kind of have the flexibility to go maybe some other directions, non-running back if you wanted to. That being said, I'm a huge believer in Joe Mixon. I was last year, even though he went down. I think he's just offense. They have another wide receiving threat with Jamar Chase this year, so they're not going to be able to stack the box as much. Mixon was doing really, really well before the injury went down. I think if Burrow can come back, the fact that they got rid of Gio Bernard and sent him over to Tampa Bay, like he was the only one that ever took away Mixon's touches on the field. So the potential of Mixon, again, being a 225, 250 carry back and then getting more receiving work, I'm a big believer in him. So starting off with McCaffrey and then Mixon falling to the 212 is insane value to me. Normally, I am hesitant to go 3 running backs in a row because I think it's just tough when you haven't addressed any other positions. That being said, the fact that Najee is also here, I think I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. It's just another guy that I think, rookies, there's a question mark, but at the same time, any rookie that ends up breaking out, it's the lowest you can get them as their first year. So Najee's pretty much the unquestioned guy there. Is their offensive line great? No. Is Big Ben terrible? Yes. But I think just the volume alone, having the 3 of them, I can pretty much just lock in my running backs and then see how my team ends up at the end with the first 3 picks as running backs and then prioritizing everything else from here. So I went there. J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift all came off. So running backs heavy again. Then Allen Robinson, and now Walters is on the clock.
Okay, so now I am left here with 3 very nice choices. I can either go with a tight end in Darren Waller, who is just a target monster. And if you're in a PPR league at this point, I probably would take Darren Waller just because he gets so many targets. You also have Terry McLaurin, who is the number 1 wideout in Washington out there. Again, he's going to be soaking up most of the targets. So in a PPR league, I would have no problem taking him here. But since this is a standard league, since we are not doing PPR, I'm going to need another valuable running back. And the value that I see that I have left, I have 3 quality starting running backs that I can choose from. I can start with David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, or Chris Carson. I'm going to go with David Montgomery for the simple fact that he is going to be the bell cow there in Chicago. With Miles Sanders and Chris Carson, you guys have a crowded backfield there. I don't want to deal with that. Chris Carson, even though he seems to be really good, a lot of touches, he always seems to get hurt, and I just don't want to deal with it. And like I said earlier, the running back room in Philly there is too crowded for me. I've never been a big fan of Sanders, so David Montgomery, my pick.
Love that pick. Super high on him. I would have considered him if Najee was gone. After that, Darren Waller goes, which middle of the third round is pretty solid for who I would argue, in my opinion, is a tight end I would take over Kittle this year. Josh Allen, the second quarterback, comes off the board. Miles Sanders, Chris Carson, Terry McLaurin, and we are back up with Garlic.
Yeah, so I mean, drafting at the bookends definitely stinks. Because, I was hoping for Josh Allen or Terry McLaurin to fall to me. Not that their ADP said they should, but I was just really hoping they would. Josh Jacobs is the next running back off the board, or the next highest on the ADP. I'm not taking him here since I've already, double-tapped that position. Mike Evans, I don't think is worth it, despite him having all the 1,000-yard season he has. I'd much rather have Chris Godwin, who's a couple down. I don't like Julio Jones as a receiver either. I don't think Kyler Murray right here is right either. Again, I'm just stalling, thinking about what I want. Because when you draft at the bookends here, like usually when you're in the middle of a draft, I think you're drafting for value. Versus when you're on the bookends, you definitely reach a little bit more just for people you want because there's so many picks in between your picks. So like if someone's, right now it's the beginning of the fourth round. If someone's not slated to go until maybe the mid or the end of the fourth round, but I really want them, I got to take them right here, right now, and just accept the fact that I reached, but that's just the nature of the beast being on the end. So I took Chris Godwin. I'll probably go another receiver here with my other pick just because I don't think the running backs are worth this draft capital at the moment. Eyeing up, Amari Cooper wouldn't be a bad pick. CeeDee Lamb wouldn't be a bad pick. Honestly, I think I might reach a little further than others would want me to. I just think Robert Woods is much more consistent and solid. And for a wide receiver too, I definitely appreciate the consistency over the boom or bust. I know in fantasy you're supposed to be going for all the guys with the high ceilings because that's how you win probably most of your games. But in this specific scenario, Robert Woods is the name that looks most appealing to me on the list. So I'm going to go Chris Godwin and Robert Woods here at the 3-4 turn and caller.
Love that. Coming off after that, after Gar started a little bit of a wide receiver rush, we had Mike Evans, as you mentioned, then Kyler Murray, quarterbacks going early here, Kareem Hunt and Josh Jacobs, and CeeDee Lamb going right before Walters here.
Okay, so CeeDee Lamb was taken right away from me, and that is super frustrating because I definitely wanted CeeDee Lamb at this point, but maybe it's a good thing I didn't. So looking here, I'm looking at my roster. I see that I have a few good wide receivers available. I could go with Amari Cooper, although I'm not really as high on him this year. I believe that CeeDee Lamb will start sucking up all of those targets. So I'm going to be out on Amari Cooper. Julio Jones, it's a new team. The name is a big name, but I don't think I trust him. So I am stuck here looking at a few more wide receivers, or I have Lamar Jackson as my quarterback. And I'm just not loving Lamar Jackson at this point in the draft. I think it's too high of a pick to be able to go for it. So I'm really thinking that
can I call BS? We can't be giving Walters extra time here. I'm picking within the time frame here. Walters see, and then you reset. He's got a whole extra minute.
I thought he was gonna, finish up his thoughts. So.
I got one here. I picked DJ Moore. I think with a new quarterback this year, I believe that and as long as he's healthy as well, I believe that he will have the season that I believe everybody thought he could have last year. So DJ Moore, wide receiver, Carolina.
So that actually was the receiver I was the highest on of the group that was left. DJ Moore went, and then Kenny Galladay, Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Myles Gaskin. So a little bit of receiver run and then Gaskin. For me, what I'm looking at here, I was happy that Gaskin went because running backs are completely off my board at this point. I'm not going to be taking a bench guy over filling up some of my other spots. That being said, I was really hoping there wouldn't be a wide receiver run because at this point I was hoping for wide receiver. Lamar is technically the top of the board. I'm not taking him. I think I just need some help at wide receiver over that. Thielen's in consideration here, but I think he was kind of inflated last year. I know he was like wide receiver 7 or something, but it was a crazy touchdown year, and I expect that to fall down, as well as Jefferson kind of taking a step forward. Irv Smith could take targets away from him this year too, so I'm kind of not looking at him. Tight ends is a possibility here. Hawkinson and Andrews, I think, are both going to be really, really good. Hawkinson especially, I am much higher on of the two of them. I think the Ravens having Lamar as a runner, Dobbins improving this year, and them drafting multiple receiving options in the offseason will take away from Andrews a little bit, whereas Hawkinson, nobody even knows who the wide receiver 1 on Detroit is going to be, so I think he's just going to get massive targets. Whether they're good targets from Goff remains to be seen. But I think just volume at this point is king, especially with tight ends. Like, you either want to get an early one or you just want to wait. Those guys in the 5 to 10 range are kind of a waste to me. They're all pretty similar. So Hawkinson, who could push up into that like top 3 group at the end of the year, is a target of mine here. And then looking at it beyond that, there's not a lot of receiver options. I'm not even considering running back, and I typically don't go quarterback. If I go tight end early, I usually try to stick to one of the two of those. So for me, it's Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett. I am going to go Kupp here, kind of for the same reason that Gar is a huge fan of Woods, who I do prefer over him. But I think the two of them are both going to have better targets this year with Hawkinson's old QB Stafford coming to town. I think he's going to have a lot more scoring options and could have a chance to at least be a high wide receiver too, which at this point, being my 5th pick as my top wide receiver guy, I just have to look for some consistency. So beyond that, Adam Thielen just went, Mark Andrews went, Lamar Jackson and Dak back-to-back quarterbacks up until Walter's pick.
Okay, I'm going to need a little help. Who is the running back out of Jacksonville there? What's his last name?
James Robinson?
No.
Travis Etienne.
Travis Etienne, or
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Etienne. Okay. All right, so here I'm looking at like, all right, do I want to fill out a position of need, or do I immediately fill my flex spot? At this current spot, I don't really like a lot of the running backs that are at this position here. I feel like I can get a lot more value out of a wide receiver than I can a running back, and I'm definitely not going to be purchasing a quarterback here at this position. It's just way too high in the draft. I'm definitely going to be waiting to get a quarterback. So my options here are Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, or Brandon Ayuk. And I am really high on Brandon Ayuk this year. I think that he's going to be another one of those sophomore players that can absolutely break the bank for you. So I'm going Brandon Ayuk.
So after Ayuk, Lockett finally falls. I was considering him half a round ago, but he goes down here. Kyle Pitts, the rookie phenom. We don't really know what to expect out of him. Travis Etienne just went over James Robinson by a decent couple of picks here. Michael Thomas goes off the board with that unknown injury risk going on. James Robinson, as I mentioned, and we are back to Garlic.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Reporting. No. So I mean, Walters was just talking about how quarterbacks are too early in the draft board for him. I kind of have the opposing view. If Josh Allen would have fallen to the 3-4 turn, I would have pulled that trigger so fast. I was also desperately hoping Dak Prescott would fall to the 5-6 turn here, and he did not. If he didn't, I was really hoping for Travis Etienne or Kyle Pitts, but this is just another thing about drafting on the ends. There's so many picks in between you. It's just hard, because if I would have taken Kyle Pitts or Dak Prescott at the 3-4 turn, I would have been an absolute lunatic. But at the same time, if you're not taking the guys you want, you're not going to get them, way below their ADP either. So it's just you really got to find that balance you're drafting at the end. I do think Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback, though, and I'm not afraid to draft either a quarterback or a tight end early. I think you do one or the other. So if you draft a quarterback early, you punt tight end till the end, and vice versa. If you take a tight end early, then you punt quarterback to the end. But I will lock in Russell Wilson here with the 5-12. And then for the 6-1, I was really hoping it could be a Travis Etienne and a quarterback, but it won't be. I'm not that in love with Chase Edmonds. Melvin Gordon maybe, but I think Javonte Williams is going to be really good there as well. So I don't think running backs are worth it at this range. Mike Davis maybe, and I don't like any of the wide receivers here either. This is a tough position for me to be in personally, because I just don't like I don't like anyone that's on the board right now. But in terms of going crazy and just absolutely reaching, I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to be it in Denver. I think Javonte Williams will. So actually, in a standard league, running backs are so much more important than anything else. I'll just grab Javonte Williams, who is a super reach right now with an ADP of 75. But I just didn't see anything else that I like, so I just got to lock that in.
And you're kind of set up in a good way where your team is balanced. I mean, you don't need to play Javonte Williams if he doesn't get the touches early because you got Jones and Gibson. So kind of something to be said for going balanced and then taking a shot on those rookies later. After that, the two guys you just mentioned, Chase Edmonds and Melvin Gordon for running backs went. Deontay Johnson, who I expect to be a target monster in Pittsburgh this year, and his teammate Chase Claypool back-to-back, and then Raheem Mostert from San Francisco right before Walters.
Okay, so the running back that I was hoping to get is gone. I was going to be targeting Raheem Mostert here at this point. Looking at some of the other wide receivers that you have, or I'm sorry, running backs that you have here, you have Ronald Jones at Tampa Bay, you have Mike Davis in Atlanta, just two players that I'm really not interested in. You also have Harris out of New England, another player that I'm not looking at. So I am going to be punting on the running back position right here. And I know that I've been chirping about quarterbacks going too soon here, but I'm looking at it and I see Justin Herbert and I see Aaron Rodgers. Now I'm not high on Justin Herbert, even though he had a fantastic rookie season last year. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be cooking with gas this year. He's got 1 year left in Green Bay to prove what he's got. And so I think he's going to try and make the most of it. And not only that, he's going to have his old buddy Randall Cobb back. So I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers, 6th round.
Can I just say, Walters, that you have worse football takes than Charged? Not high on Justin Herbert. What's wrong with you?
I don't like the fact that Mike Davis is already injured. No, not Mike Davis. Mike Williams. Sorry. Right? I thought that's what I heard. Am I wrong?
Oh.
Hello?
Sorry, I was just making sure I got the draft pause correctly. So on the clock here, we had T. Higgins, Odell go, Justin Herbert, and Mike Davis. So I am back on the clock here. I was really hoping one of the two receivers that went, Higgins or Odell, would go because at this point I was just going to take a shot at them. Kind of like Garlic said before, I feel the same way where if you go tight end or quarterback, you don't really focus on the other one. So quarterbacks are really not in consideration for me. I am ignoring all running backs on the board currently. Harris, who I actually like. I'm not considering receivers up there, Jamar Chase, but I don't know what's going to look like in Cincinnati, who's going to be the top receiver. And having Mixon, that kind of takes me away from it a little bit because you're kind of taken away from one or the other. Plus, I don't like betting on the Bengals offense more than I have to. DJ Chark, I'm not a big believer in. Same with Juju. I just think there's other receivers on the team that are better than them. One that's super interesting to me is Courtland Sutton because he was a wide receiver. Or the wide receiver one for his team 2 years ago as a rookie, I believe. And then last year he had the season-ending injury, so didn't really get a chance to do that. I know the quarterback play is shaky in Denver, but I expect Sutton could at least give mid to low wide receiver 2 numbers, and he actually has a ceiling that's higher than that to push for like a high wide receiver 2, kind of like a 10 to 15 range if he really broke out. But I like my dart throw with him there. And then looking at the other pick I'm going to make, Brady is in consideration for me. I still am a big fan of his and think he's going to have another monster season with all those weapons, but I shy away from it just with only having 2 wide receivers after taking Hawkinson early and not being super confident in either of those wide receivers to be a guy. So I think I kind of just got to load up at that position. And I am actually going to go with who might not be the better receiver on the team. It remains to be seen, but I think is a better value this year, getting him in the 7th round at this point. So I'm going to be taking Debo from San Francisco, who's just electric. They find ways to get the ball in his hands a ton, whether it's end around screens, handoffs, stuff like that. And I think San Francisco's offense is going to look a lot better this year, especially when they start their rookie quarterback Lance. So after that, we had Ronald Jones, Jamar Chase, DJ Chark, and Damian Harris all go off the board coming up on Walters.
Hey, how's it going? Let's see here. So I'm here and I see these list of players. I've got enough wide receivers as of right now. I've taken care of quarterback. I see tight ends, Noah Fant and Dallas Goedert, and I'm just not not interested in any of those players right now. So I'm looking at the running back position because I need a third running back position. So I can choose between Darrell Henderson, David Johnson, or Leonard Fournette at this point. And there's also Zach Moss. And I'm looking at all of these and it's like, I feel like the best pick as of right now, just because I believe he's a starter. I'm going to go with David Johnson out of Houston.
Brady finally comes off the board here after that. Then Darrell Henderson, who I actually forgot about in sleepers orders. If I would have had my own sheet, he probably would have been somebody higher up on the list for me just because Akers' injury pushes him to an RB1. Dallas Goedert and Noah Fant, tight ends back-to-back, and then Ryan Tannehill at the 11 spot here right before Garlic.
I was really praying for Darrell Henderson to make it down to me just because I think he's a stud as well, and he'll be a stud this year. I think, actually, if you can believe, I think Darrell Henderson will do worse than Javonte Williams this year. That's why I took him earlier than Darrell Henderson. But I was really hoping he'd fall. He didn't. Big sad. Running backs continue to be way more important in this league, and I don't think Leonard Fournette's going to be it for me this year. So Zach Moss is going to be my pick here with the last pick in the 7th round. And I'm just kind of eyeing up what I want to do with my second pick right now. But again, I'm just kind of working that clock, wasting your guys' time, word vomiting my thoughts so I can eye up what I want to do with my second pick here. Tight ends are off the board for me. I've already got Russell Wilson. I don't want to do a Denver receiver just because I think that team is going to let me down. I don't think Will Fuller's it. I'm off on Tyler Boyd. Jarvis Landry, maybe. I think Jarvis Landry's solid enough. I think the Browns are going to be really good this year. So I'll go ahead and do Zach Moss. And then so I'm not taking up a full 2 minutes and, have the same amount of talking time as Jack. I know he'd be mad if that was true. So I'll just take Jarvis Landry here as my next wide receiver. I've got 4 running backs now. I feel good about that. And I've got 3 pretty good wide receivers, I think. So I'm pretty happy with how this team's shaping up so far.
Following that, another little wide receiver run with Juju, Jerry Jeudy, and Robbie Anderson. Fournette finally goes, and then Will Fuller right before Walters.
All right, so I'm a big fan of stacking players, and at this point, I'm looking around. I don't have a tight end here. Normally, when you do a stack, you want to do a quarterback wide receiver stack, but at this point, that's just not possible for me. So I'm going to go with maybe not the next best thing, but it's going to be the next best thing for me. I'm going to be investing into a tight end here at this position from Green Bay, and that'd be Robert Tonyan. He is going to be my next pick.
For what it's worth, it's pronounced Tunyon. So
Tunyon, sorry.
Ton, as in a ton of stuff. His teammate A.J. Dillon goes off after that. Then Tyler Boyd, Trey Sermon, Logan Thomas. Not a lot of guys that were on my target range here, so that helps me out a little bit. I'm still probably looking more for wide receiver depth than I am running back depth here. Jalen Hurts is in consideration. I would take him over Stafford or Burrow, who are the next quarterbacks up, just because of that running ability. But I think I'm going to wait. One guy I know I'm for sure taking is Brandon Cooks here. Just, again, based on volume alone. No clue if Deshaun Watson's going to play this year, but Cooks is really the only relevant wide receiver on that team right now. In worst case, he's going to get some targets, and they're going to be behind a lot all the time. So chance for him to maybe put up some wide receiver 3 numbers with some boom weeks if I had to start him. And then beyond that, looking at Kenyon Drake, I don't want. Michael Carter, I would normally, but I don't need the depth right now. Curtis Samuel, Mike Williams, Michael Gallup, Jalen Waddle. A lot of wide receivers here, not a lot of guys that I'm necessarily in love with. The only ones that I'm really considering are Corey Davis for the Jets and probably it, honestly. So I am going to go with Corey Davis for that reason, because there's no guarantee who's going to be the Jets receiver right now. And same reason as Texans, they're just going to be behind by a lot and throwing a ton. Beyond that, the 2 quarterbacks I mentioned went with Hurts and then Stafford with Devontae Smith in the middle. Mike Gesicki at tight end went out, and now Walters is back up.
Okay, right on. So I have pretty much filled out my whole starting lineup minus my defense and my kicker. So from this point forward, I'm essentially going to be looking at players that add the most value to my team whatsoever. So there's a lot of stuff going on around here. We've got a few wide receivers that we can throw out there. We have Jalen Waddle. We have Mike Williams. We also have Laviska Shenault. a few running backs that you could choose from. You could choose from Kenyon Drake, James Conner, which I would definitely not be doing that. Or if you wanted the backup role in Devin Singletary, you could do that. For me, right now, I feel like I would have gone. I definitely would have gone Kenyon Drake at that point, but Jack never paused the draft for me, so
Well,
that was
that's
pretty
what
cool.
Garlic said. It's we're on the clock here. Not trying to give anybody more time than the others. You gotta pay attention to the clock. So beyond that, we had Michael Carter, Curtis Samuel, Kenyon Drake, Irv Smith, and Mike Williams all go, and now Garlic is on the clock, and I will not pause for him either.
What a sweetheart. So I was really praying that Laviska Shenault would fall to me, and he sure did. So I'm very happy about that. On top of that, I'm not sure what else to do here. I mean, I know I already have 4 running backs, but running backs are so important in standard, it's ridiculous. So I'm never afraid to take another one. I just didn't like the 3-4 turn specifically. And it looks like someone just took Kenyon Drake off the draft board for some reason.
Yeah, Jack's putting it on there for me.
I'm fixing it. There.
Okay. So I'm gonna go
Not
with
doing it again.
Ahead of my time reset, but I'll go with Laviska Shenault here just so I'm not wasting everyone's time. And I'm not sure what to do with the other one. So oh boy. This is
there any thought with James Conner here, just if he finally does stay healthy?
I just can't believe that. I think he's had too many chances to stay healthy. I'll go Jalen Waddle. I mean, it's just literally a dart throw at this point. This is my 5th receiver, so I mean, you're just if they flash out, then they're great. If not, then it's over.
Gallup goes next. James Conner, the aforementioned one. Hollywood Brown, Latavius Murray, and Devin Singletary. Walter's back up.
Okay, at this point, I'm gonna most likely be targeting a wide receiver here. At this point, it's been a few rounds since I've had them, and I love to have tons and tons of wide receivers. At this point, looking at it, I can go with Ruggs, T.Y. Hilton, Marvin Jones Jr., and which I'm actually going to do. So I'm going to be picking Marvin Jones Jr. there because he'll either get you 14 or he'll get you 4 points. So there you go.
The boomer bust.
That's correct.
We get our first kicker going off the board with Justin Tucker, Devontae Parker, Naeem Hines, and Matt Ryan goes at the end of the 10th round here. I'm back up. I finally feel good about my wide receiver depth. I've done what I usually don't do in any drafts, going 3 running backs in a row, and then my last 5 picks have all been wide receivers. So not common, but hey, it gets you some value with wide receivers in this kind of like 5 to 10 round range. Considering here, I'm not looking at any kickers or defenses yet. I do need a quarterback. Otherwise, I'd maybe look towards running back depth because I'm good on receiver and tight end. Quarterbacks wise, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins. I am going to go with the upside of Trevor Lawrence just because I know he'll be probably a week 1 starter and has the running ability plus prolific passer. I think he's got good weapons in Jacksonville, which are better than some people think. So now having my quarterback locked up, I will probably look to fill up some running back or wide receiver depth. Normally, I would pick Antonio Brown here because I still do like him for the value as the even 3rd option on Tampa Bay. Getting him in the 11th round is worth it to me. But having my last 5 picks be receiver, I'm going to avoid that. Not a lot of running backs here. It's pretty much a dead zone at this point, so I'm not in love. So I will probably go for more of a I am torn. I will go with Jamal Williams from Detroit. Kind of a panic pick there, but being the fact that I've got 3 stud running backs to start and play, I'm never going to take any of them out unless it's an injury or a bye. Jamal Williams is pretty much game script proofed where he's at least going to get receiving work for me. So that's my pick. Beyond that, we had the Buffalo defense go, Younghoe Koo as a kicker, Tampa Bay defense, and Gronk all went. And it is now Walters in the 11th round.
All right, looking here at the 11th round, I'm most likely going to be looking at more wide receivers just to keep filling up my bench. You could also look at tight ends here as well. There's nothing here that I'm really seeing that I would want to have. With running backs, I kind of feel the same way. You could run backups at this point, handcuffs. So like you could do like an Alexander Madison or maybe a Philip Lindsay at this point, but I'm still not going to do that. I still want to go for a person who has draft capital, who is going to make your team look better. And at this point, I think Michael Pittman at this point is probably going to be the best pick for my team overall right now.
Several defenses come off the board here. Ravens, Washington, the Rams, San Francisco. Antonio Brown finally went there, and Garlic is now back up.
So, I mean, we're getting here to the end of the draft. If I have to do a kicker and a defense, this is like kind of my last two position picks then. And honestly, I'm someone who doesn't always draft a kicker and a defense. I know some commissioners don't like that, but I usually just kind of hold out until the season starts. Then I drop either the bottom or someone gets injured inevitably, so I can drop them and then pick up a kicker or defense. So, I mean, even drafting a kicker and a defense is not my top priority here. As I mentioned at the beginning, I've neglected the tight end position so far. So I like Jonnu Smith here. Hunter Henry's already proven he's not solid. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jonnu Smith. He should get all that volume there in New England. And then I'm actually going to double tap the position. I also really like Anthony Ferkser this year. And so I'm going to go ahead and take him out of Tennessee. I know. This is a clean pod. So
interesting passing on Higbee to me, who I think will be pretty solid too, but I get with the Robert Woods stack you don't want. He went, Gus Edwards went, the Steelers defense, Tony Pollard, Evan Ingram, and now Walters.
Oh man, looking at everything right now, it is it's kind of a question mark. Like, what do you do here? Do you want to go for a backup quarterback? I'm not going to be doing that. Absolutely not. Do you want to keep going wide receivers? Probably not at this point. If I'm going to have if I'm going to have a bench player, most likely I'm going to fill out another running back just to give me some of that balance. You could also look at tight end as well. And some of the players that I see here, I'm just not really in love with, especially at the tight end position. So for any sort of running back stuff, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to probably go with like an Alexander Madison at this point, just because Dalvin Cook does have that injury-prone history. So Alexander Madison will be my pick at this point.
Just for the sake of speed, I'm switching the last couple of rounds here to 30 seconds instead of 60. I didn't want to do it until it was on my pick. But looking up here, I can kind of go pretty much anyway. I've got 5 receivers and 4 running backs. My quarterback and tight end are all filled, so I can kind of go with whatever I would like. I do only have 1 bench spot, and I'm torn on where to take it. I think I am going to go with Henry Ruggs here from the Raiders. I think he has the chance to be their wide receiver 1, and he's got the speed and the athleticism to make things happen. So I like him as kind of a dart throw on my bench. If he hits, great. If not, I drop him for somebody week 1. And then I do have to pick both kicker and defense now, sad face. So I am going to go with, and I won't put a lot of thought into it, but I'm going to go with the hairy butt kicker himself from the Chiefs, Harrison Butker, just to get the kicker out of the way. Defense, I can kind of just pick week 1 and drop. So Lindsey, Kirk Cousins, T.Y. Hilton, and Mecole Hardman all went next, and Walters is up.
At this point, it's going to be drafting either defense or kicker at this point. I'm going to be looking at kicker here first, just because I do feel that they can be more valuable than what a defense could. So looking at the list of players that are available, I'm probably going to go with Blankenship. Or they drafted Gold for me, whatever.
Running out of time again. Gold, Aguilar, Blankenship, J.D. McKissick, Jason Myers, and Justin Fields all went for Garlic.
Yeah, so I mean, these are my last 2 picks here. Like I said, I don't care if I don't take a kicker or a defense. It'd probably be a little bit much to not take at least one. So I'll go ahead and I'll lock in the Chicago defense. Why not? They're good for at least a couple games, and I'll probably stream that position. And then I was thinking, I liked the Tony Pollard and the Alexander Madison picks. I think handcuffs at this point are good. You ride them on your bench for a couple weeks. Hopefully someone gets injured. Then all of a sudden you've got an RB1 that you've got in the 12th, 13th round. So with that in mind, I think Marlon Mack still has some of the tank, and I also like Giovanni Bernard this year. I think he'll get a lot of passing action in Tampa Bay. So it's between those two. and I'll go Marlon Mack in a standard league over Gio.
Garlic completes his league or his team here. Greg Zerline goes off Darnell Mooney, Tyler Bass, Adam Troutman. Did Walters just instantly pick?
I did not. I had auto pick was turned on. Can we go back to my pick, because I'm not gonna have.
Sure.
When the computer auto drafts you once, then it just puts you on auto draft because they're not going to sit there and give you 30 seconds every time.
No,
waste everyone else's life.
That's not who I wanted either. God damn it.
What is your issue here?
Walters, you stink at this game. The 14th round, you're screwing up, pal. I mean, what are we doing here?
It's changing stuff around on my draft. I went to go pick what I wanted, and like the rankings changed on it. I'm also going to have to add an explicit to this one because I think I dropped an F-bomb. So whatever. I'm going with the Vikings defense. That's who I wanted to go with. I really do think that the Vikings defense is going to be improved from what it was last year. We'll have to see. Mike Zimmer is always a good defensive coach, so I have a lot of faith in him. So Minnesota Vikings is going to be my pick.
And with me only needing a defense left, I am going to do what I do every single year, where I strictly pick the defense based off of their week 1 opponent, because I, like Garlic, pretty much stream the position and will probably drop them the second they play somebody good. So I'm going with the Broncos because they play the Giants week 1. And also I think they'll actually be okay. So that completes our draft. Usually there'd be a couple more rounds. So like typically your bench is a little bit bigger. You can take some dart throw guys late, or maybe do a backup quarterback. I usually end up leaving with 2 quarterbacks myself, just because I tend to draft quarterbacks late. But for now, our drafts are done. So we are going to run through our teams here. We'll just have each of us name who we've got again really quick for the listeners. I have at quarterback, I went Trevor Lawrence. At running backs, I have McCaffrey, Mixon, Najee Harris, and Jamal Williams. Receiver, I have Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, Debo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Corey Davis, Henry Ruggs. Tight end, I went TJ Hawkinson, and defense and kicker don't matter.
Okay. For my team, my quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. My running backs are Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, David Johnson, Kenyon Drake, and Alexander Madison. My wide receivers are Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Marvin Jones Jr., and Michael Pittman. My tight end is Robert Tonyan, and then my defense is the Vikings, and my kicker is Robbie Gould. Garlic?
I guess I prefer to list mine just in draft position. I think it gives a little more context. I went Aaron Jones and Antonio Gibson at the 1-2 turn. I got Chris Godwin and Robert Woods after that. So my 2 starting running backs and my 2 starting wide receivers. I mean, everyone's going to have a solid first 4, but I feel pretty good about those 4. I went Russell Wilson for a QB next. I put Javonte Wilson easily be flexed out with my next pick after that, which was Zach Moss. Rounding out my wide receiver staple, I got Jarvis Landry, Laviska Shenault, and Jalen Waddle. Just guys you'll throw in the flex, or maybe if the person in front of them gets injured, they'll have some good games. They're good buy fill-ins. They'll be fine. I double tapped Jonnu Smith and Anthony Ferksker at the 11-12 turn, just because I think they'll both be solid tight ends. If I have to drop one eventually, that's fine, but I definitely think they both have a lot of potential this year. And at the very end, I just picked up the Chicago D to have a defense. And Marlon Mack, I think he's a pretty good running back, a sneaky sleeper in standard leagues for sure.
Perfect. So we're going to go through like one quick little thing here just to give our thoughts and perspectives on each other's teams, just so we don't all roster bait over our own squads. We'll start with Garlic's team. Walter is looking at it. Do you have any one favorite or least favorite pick?
All right.
Just based on value.
Yeah, so my favorite pick for sure has got to be probably the Chris Godwin. He's probably my favorite player on Garlic's team. Aaron Jones is very good as well, but I think for me, I really like Chris Godwin leading off the wide receiver room for Garlic. Although it is worth noting that Aaron Jones being the last pick in the first round of a 12-man team is a very good way to start off your draft. So congrats to Garlic on that. One thing that I did not like is I'm not a big fan of Russell Wilson at the 5. I think it's way too soon to go for a quarterback like that. But then again, I went Aaron Rodgers next round, so not much for me to chirp about that. But overall, I think Garlic's team is very well balanced, and definitely a contender for sure.
My 2 cents on it, I would say probably my favorite one. It's kind of just the tandem being on the bookend picks, but getting Woods as your second wide receiver, who I'm a big fan of, getting to go back to back with Godwin and Woods, who I don't think it would surprise people too much if both of them ended up as the top fantasy option on their team. I mean, they both have done it before, so you could end up having two high end wide receiver twos, low end wide receiver ones there, and I think that's pretty solid for not taking wide receiver until that point. I guess my least, other than kind of echoing Walters with what Russell Wilson there. Not that I don't think he'll be a top 5 quarterback, because he has been every year forever, but I would have just been tempted to take some more depth there at a different spot. I also probably, if it were actually me in a real league, I probably would have gone Travis Kelce at that point over Gibson just to get the advantage, and you already had Aaron Jones, so you might have had to focus on running back a little more after. But Kelce being just that, cheat code difference maker at tight end would have been tough for me to pass up. And then I guess Garlic will let you, if you have any favorite pick that you made, or just like how you feel about this team. Would you be happy with it if you were in a real league, or would you have done something differently based on people that fell, so on, so on?
No, I mean, I think the way Ron Rivera ran CMC before, and the way Ron Rivera's been talking about Gibson and how he performed last year, I think Gibson at 2-1 is a steal. I mean, I know his ADP is lower than that. Like, he could have gone mid-second to late second, no problem. But I think I'm happiest with Gibson, and just having Aaron Jones and Gibson off the bat. I think they'll both be RB1s this year, so that's good to get.
Would you be good with this team overall, besides just the first couple of picks, or how would you feel you would have wanted to do stuff differently?
I mean, like I mentioned, I would have wished Josh Allen would have fell, but I would have Josh Allen at the 1-2 turn, like I said earlier, is ludicrous. If Kyle Pitts would have fell or Travis Etienne, I would have taken them at the 5-6 turn. But I'm pretty happy with this team. I definitely picked names that are safe. Like, I love Robert Woods. Russell Wilson's good. He was quarterback 6 last year. Zach Moss is an exciting pick, I think, at 7-12. All the stories out of camp is that he's the number 1 back there, so he'll still probably spit with Singletary, but there's a chance he just takes over and he sneaks into the RB1 conversation, or at least high RB2 himself. So what a great flex.
I like it. All right, we'll go with my team next. Garlic, if you want to give your thoughts and your faves and least faves and all that.
I mean, if you don't take Christian McCaffrey first overall, I think you're lunatic. So that makes perfect sense to me. I don't like Joe Mixon as much as everyone else does, so I would have not taken him at 212. I probably would have gone Najee and Clyde, or Clyde and Swift, or some other combination like that. I wouldn't have done that personally, but I respect it. Hawkinson at 412 is fine too. Your big run of receivers there is fine, since you already have your top 3 receivers. So Kupp, Sutton, Samuel, Cooks. I personally want to take in Sutton this year, just because I'm not a believer in Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, despite Sutton's previous success with Drew Lock. It's not a person I'm looking to draft this year, at least not at their ADP. So I don't really have any big complaints with your team. Trevor Lawrence should be a fine quarterback. I think Javonte Williams at 11 is a great pick as well. So overall, I mean, you're top heavy on running backs, but as long as they stay healthy, you should be fine. But health is a question mark for at least the first 2, so we will see.
Walters?
I love CMC at 1. Absolutely the right pick. I'm with Garlic. I'm not a fan of Mixon. I never have been. I just don't think he has been that great for fantasy. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't know if Joe Mixon has ever won anybody a week in fantasy football. That's just my opinion on it. So I would never take him in the second round. It is good that you did back it up with the Harris pick. So you will have some stability there at the running back position. Your wide receivers, I'm high on Cooper Kupp this year. I feel like with Matt Stafford there, he can easily propel ahead of Robert Woods as the number 1 wide receiver in that wide receiver room. Your other wide receivers are fine. Sutton, I am a believer in Sutton this year. I feel like he can do some things, especially with Drew Lock. Debo is also a solid choice. Cooks and Davis are kind of just afterthoughts in my opinion, but other than that, I feel like your wide receiver room is decent as well. I'm not a fan of the rookie quarterback, never have been, never will be. And then the rest of your team, it's good. It's a good team. So overall, I would say I would say it's going to be in contention, but I don't know if it's going to bring you home the hardware.
Fair enough. I think for me, obviously, like I'm clearly higher on Mixon than you two guys. I still think even if you're not high on Mixon, I don't see him in pretty much any league falling to the 212. I don't think he's going to get to the end of the second, beginning of the third. I think he's going to be more of a early to mid second pick. So I still think that's crazy value. Same with Najee. I don't think there's any way that I would be getting him where I am. So these guys both felt like steals to me. Other than injury, I feel like all three of my running backs are going to be pushing for 300 plus total touches, just with a little bit of receiving work in there. So the volume alone, I think I'll have a really safe floor, and I think at least two of them could explode on any week. So never really have done that in a mock draft or like a normal league, but I really, really like getting all three of those guys, just with how quickly the running back tier drops off. Hawkinson, I'm just a big fan of this year. Would I like to have had a receiver before that point? Yes, but I think then that just kind of shows you what your draft strategy has to change into, like you guys talked about. Do I love all of the receivers that I picked? No, but I think just the fact that Kupp and Sutton being my 1 and 2, who are still both fine, but neither of them you feel great about, I think I just wanted to take more shots on other guys. So all of them between Kupp, Sutton, Debo, Cooks, and Corey Davis either are the one on their team, or you could realistically see how they would finish as the one. Like maybe they've got one other option to beat out. But I like that. I feel like between five, or out of the five of them, 2 to 3 should hopefully at least be wide receiver 20 or better. Didn't love waiting on quarterback as late as I did. Obviously, there's the risk with the rookie quarterback, but Lawrence has been talked about as the top best prospect since Andrew Luck came out of college. So I do think he has enough rushing ability and just overall passing ability to be a decent option, and they're going to have to throw and play from behind a lot. This is a situation where I definitely would take a backup quarterback. Probably would have rolled the dice on a second rookie at this point, or done like a safe baseline with a lot less excitement, like a Kirk Cousins or a Baker kind of thing. But don't love my quarterback, but I think it'll be good enough with my strong receiver and tight end base. Great receiver depth, not a lot of anything else depth. So overall, I would feel pretty good about this. I wouldn't do much different except maybe play out waiting on tight end and seeing if I could load up with like a true wide receiver 1 at 4th instead. So that's my thoughts. Moving on, we'll go down to Walter's team last. Gar, I'll let you go again first, since you're just prettier. So you can give your thoughts.
Sure? I know how much you like talking. You can keep going if you want. I'm sure the folks home love it too.
I mean, if you want to chat, feel free.
All right, I'll chat for you, pal. I mean, Alvin Kamara falling to 6, I think taking him there is a no-brainer. I've said multiple times in person and on other better podcasts that I wouldn't take Kamara in the first 5 picks if I had a top 5 pick. I think taking him at 6 is fine, though. I think the value is there. It lines up better with where I think he'll perform. If you would have gone Jonathan Taylor or Zeke at 6 either, I think that would have been fine. Justin Jefferson, I don't think I would have taken him at the 2-7 with A.J. Brown and George Kittle still being there. But that's just me personally. I know we're all Vikings homers here, but I think it's much more likely that Justin Jefferson regresses, whereas A.J. Brown either will maintain or go up. So I would have taken A.J. Brown myself. David Montgomery, solid in the 3rd. Dude's going to be a solid running back. DJ Moore and Ayuk, solid running receivers after that. Aaron Rodgers, fine pick at 6-7. After that, it's a lot of guys that'll be in your flex or just sitting on your bench. So I don't love David Johnson. I don't love Kenyon Drake, but they're going to be fine this year. Robert Tonyan, he was the tight end 3 last year, so you touchdown Tonyan. You just, that guy could win you a couple weeks. He could lose you a couple weeks. You just hope you're on the winning end more than you're on the losing end. And then, I don't even have a strong enough opinion on Marvin Jones or Pittman. Madison at 12, I love. And then the Vikings defense, fine. It's nice to have people on your team you want, so I'm a firm believer in that. So while I don't think the Vikings defense will be that great fantasy-wise, everyone who plays fantasy would rather live and die on their own sword. So when you get guys on your team that you want, that's when you have the best time playing fantasy. So I totally respect the Vikings defense there.
Not a whole lot else to say beyond Garlic mentioning every single player, which for the most part I agree on. Kamara falling to 6 is surprising to me. I think he'll go probably at 4 in most leagues. I love David Montgomery. I think him going in the mid-3rd is like, he'd be one of my top targets if I were a middle round pick. Yeah, I won't repeat about the next couple of players. I personally didn't love the Tonyan pick. I think for me, it's once you get past Hawkinson and Andrews, it kind of falls off at tight end where everybody looks the same. So I probably just would have waited and kept going on depth. But same thing. I'm not a huge believer in David Johnson. I mean, I think he'll be maybe usable, but I could see Lindsey passing him for like the more efficient workload this year. So I don't love that he's your running back 3. I would have probably gone Tunion's pick as another running back to back that up. I don't think Drake's going to do a lot. I still believe Josh Jacobs will get more carries than people are thinking. But I really actually like Marvin Jones, so I have a stronger opinion on him, where I think he could easily surprise as the number 2 option in terms of volume, and I think he'll definitely be the best receiving option in Jacksonville, where they have to throw a ton. He just seems to find a way to flirt with 10 touchdowns every year. Beyond that, it's kind of just dart throws. So I'm with it there. Overall, I like it. I think it's a pretty balanced team. You're not super strong in one spot, and you're not weak anywhere.
Okay. So with my team here, I'm going to say that I'm going to guess that David Montgomery is going to be my favorite pick. I really like the fact that I was able to get a solid starting running back in the 3rd round, halfway through it. Justin Jefferson, he is a person that I targeted because I want him on my team. Is he going to regress? Chances are, yeah, there is. But like Garlic said, I wanted to go out and get my guys and have ride or die on my roster. So I just went after it. Is AJ Brown the better pick? It's very possible, but with how amazing Justin Jefferson looked last year, I wanted to have that. I wanted to have that again, and I wanted him to be on my team this year. So that's exactly why I went after him. Ayuk, I'm also high on. I'm really hoping that this guy has a breakout year. So 2 wide receivers that I'm very, very excited about having on my roster. Aaron Rodgers, at that point, like I was starting to look at the quality of quarterbacks that were available and what round I was in and where else I needed to fill out my roster. I probably could have done a little bit better with running backs at this point as well, because I know you said that David Johnson wasn't necessarily your favorite. So maybe instead of going Aaron Rodgers, I could have picked up a Mike Davis there. But overall, I'm really happy about my quarterback selection, and I think he's going to have one solid year this year in Green Bay. Moving down to my tight end, at this point again, it was like I'm looking at tight ends, and it's literally a dart throw, because after you're done with Andrews, the list after that just kind of drops off, like you said. So we're not sure about Pitts, but so I just decided to go with someone who had a lot of touchdown receptions last year, and so that's why I picked Tanyan. Overall, like Jack said, I think my team is balanced. I feel like I have a couple heavy hitters, especially in the running back position, but I feel like if Ayuk and Jefferson don't have the year that I'm hoping that they have, I'm going to find myself really, really down and out on my receivers this year. DJ Moore could have a really nice season, but I was hoping to be able just to get that surefire wide receiver, and I'm hoping that Ayuk and Jefferson can do it. But if they don't, I'm definitely going to be disappointed in my wide receiving crew this year. So,
Walters, I have a question for you. So, talking about or throughout the draft, I was talking about strategy and how Jack and I both on the end there, we definitely have to reach a bit more, just because again, there's 23 picks or however many picks it is in between our picks. And so we end up reaching a little bit more. And we might end up taking guys we want more often just because we're reaching for names we like or players we like. Whereas I thought that players in the middle of the draft, draft more for value, and they know they got another pick coming in the next 12. So if who they want, if they're between 2, the other guy might fall. And seeing you seem to be the least warm on your team of the 3 of us, do you think that plays into it more? You think you reached less because you were in the middle and you knew your picks were coming pretty consistently, or do you just think it's how the draft board fell to you?
I think it's just kind of how the draft board fell. Like, I'm not saying that like my wide receivers are bad, but I don't have a rock solid wide receiver that I know that I can just know that I'm going to be able to set and forget it and be able to just, not have any worries about it. 2 of my 3 starting wide receivers are in their sophomore year, and that can be really scary because sophomore slump is more than just a phrase. It might actually be a thing, and especially with Jefferson, there is a good chance that the volume and the number of points that the offense scores in Minnesota will go down this year because of how good the defense performs. So, and then there's also could be a regression to Kirk Cousins' play as well. So that's another thing. To answer your question, I think the reason that I'm most lukewarm on my team is just because in the wide receiver and in the tight end position, I felt that I wasn't able to get the stability or a guy that I would be more more comfortable with. Not saying that Tanyan's a bad pick, but I would have never thought that I would be drafting Robert Tanyan in this draft. He was never on my radar. So I was just like a bit thrown off about how the draft came to me. And it leaves me questioning some of my players. So
you tilted a little bit. You panicked in the moment.
A little bit of panic, but I mean, I think it's also worth noting that no matter where you are in the draft, you might have to reach for a player. Number one, you might want that player on your team, or you need to fill a role on your team just because of how the draft board fell to you. So to actually get the players to balance your roster the most, you might actually have to reach for a player. So don't ever be afraid to reach for a player because that just because the player is sitting at the top of the list in your on your draft board doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be the best pick for your team.
You know what? I think after your little panic there, we should call you Panic Man Walters.
You think so? All right. Well,
what a
that's
genius idea.
That's all I have for my team. Jack or Guard, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
That's all I have for everything tonight. So,
I mean, I definitely would like to mention Carrie's Cheesecakery one more time. Go on Facebook, Google, or not Google, but go on Facebook, search up Carrie's Cheesecakery. She makes incredible cheesecakes, and it's definitely left me satisfied tonight. It'll leave you satisfied too.
Carrie's cheesecake. It's not mold. It's just cookies.
Cheesecakery, please.
All right. Well, I would just like to say thanks, Garlic. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Sorry that we get going, but it was a lot easier, better than what it was the last time. A ton of hiccups in our audio. I thought was pretty good. I'll have to go back and check the VOD here and make sure that. But I was how it went, and I really appreciate you coming on. Why don't you make a plug for your podcast?
Nah. I'd much rather just keep plugging Carrie's Cheesecakery on Facebook.
Are you sure?
In fact, tell her Garlic sent you.
That sounds like a hood idea.
Okay, right on. Do you have any
That's all we got for tonight.
Okay. Jack, is that it? That's all that you got? That's all you want to do?
That's all we got for tonight.
Oh. You're not the host. I say when it's over with, man.
That's all we got.
All right, so one last time.
Like it when mommy and daddy fight.
I want to thank R for coming out here and doing this podcast with me tonight. I'd like to thank all of the listeners and all of the viewers out there on YouTube. I'd like subscribers on the YouTube channel. If you have not, we are only a mere 31 viewers from getting that subs. So please on our YouTube page, and we would very much appreciate it. You can find us on Discord. Please join the Discord. There is a ton of different sections there that you can chat about football or non-football related. It's a little slow there right now. We get, the better it will be for sure. So please join the Discord. And that's pretty much going to do it. I think we're going to be taking it away here. See you later, everybody. Bye.
Fairly good.
I gotta go, Walters. Bye.
Bye.